So Kenneth Greene is an attorney based in Westlake Village, California. He has been representing lessors, brokers, and others involved in the leasing and finance industry for almost 40 years. His practice entails documentation, licensing, compliance, litigation, and bankruptcy. He's currently general counsel to the American Association of Commercial Finance Brokers, as well as an advisory board member of Leasing News. You've been doing it for so many years. I mean, how do you get to be an expert in commercial finance law? What brought you to this area?
Well, I have some anecdotal stuff so I can go back a little ways. As a young guy, starting in perhaps fourth grade, around the time the Beatles appeared on Ed Sullivan, I had only one goal in life, which was to be a Beatle. That job was already taken, so I just decided to become a musician. And I was really pursuing music as a vocation for my entire life. I got to Brandeis University and was studying music. One day it appeared obvious to me that I needed another degree just in case the music didn't pan out. There was a professor there named Charles Roggevin, who was the Attorney General of the state of Connecticut, I believe. And this was a class of 8, 7 guys, maybe 6 guys and a woman and me. And the 6 gentlemen in the class, this is Brandeis University, a liberal college in 1975, 76. So you can imagine these guys were coming into class in suits with briefcases. I was coming into class in jeans and a t-shirt with a ponytail and an earring. And I only chose the course, truthfully, because it fit into my agenda, my schedule, but it was called the Sociology of Law. And I was pursuing a sociology degree as well. So I figured, Roggevin was a no-nonsense judge, a no-nonsense lawyer. He listened to everybody the first time around. He asked some esoteric question about, why are you studying law? What does it mean to you? What are you doing here? And just about everybody was, well, you know, I want to change the world. I want to do this. I want to be a corporate lawyer. And whatever I said, and I don't recall what it was, when it was over, Roggevin turned around and he said, this guy here with the ponytail is the only person who's thinking like a lawyer. He answered the question the way I wanted to. I wanted an answer from you guys. You guys gave me all canned responses. Anyway, Charles Roggevin, a very conservative man, and I obviously at the time was not a very conservative young man. He took me under his wing and so inspired me. And so, you know, I did this for decades and decades in several different firms. And when I think it was Pete Sawyer called me up and said, do you have any interest in joining up as general counsel to the AACFB, at the time the NAELB? I said, well, let me take a look at who I'd be representing. And I looked at the 300 or so companies that, you know, and I knew them all. These were all my old friends. You know, we'd been out smoking cigars and telling jokes and having meals, and I'd worked with them so extensively that it felt like old home week, you know, like a high school reunion. Yeah. So it was just a great opportunity for me to rejoin the industry in a different way, in a different, you know, role, and to work with people that I cared about, because my goal always as a lawyer has been to take care of my family and my friends.
We need to know a little bit more about what you do when you're not working. We know you play music, the piano and the guitar, and are an amazing musician. So then what else do? You love to travel, but you've not been able to do much of that?
No, and 3 years ago, I promised my family, because my kids are older now, they're 31 and 29, that as long as we could, we would go to Europe or somewhere every year. So a few years ago, we spent a few weeks in Italy. It was a wonderful trip. Last year, before COVID, we did France. In fact, well, that's Italy back there. That is the Hotel Hassler, not my living room, although I would like to say that's my living room. But we swore to travel every single year, and COVID threw a wrench in that fan. But I love travel. Music is my greatest passion. You know, I do love the philosophy stuff, but first and most important in my life has always been music. I started playing the piano when I was 5. I had my first band in 4th grade, the Knights of Darkness. The past 6 years, I was presented with a wonderful opportunity. Monica's been there, although right now it's closed, to run a club called Bogies at the Westlake Village Inn. This little town of Westlake Village, where I work, was a cultural desert. There was nothing there. And this Westlake Village Inn is a beautiful resort. And I got to be friends with the owner and the COO. And he said, "What do you think of it down here?" I said, "It's nice, but it's boring. There's nothing to do." He goes, "I know, we should start a music club." And I said, "Let me know when you're ready." And about 5 years later, he said, "We're ready." And I started this music club, and out of nowhere, we created the very best, probably the best music club in California.
Wow.
If not, people came from all around the world, from Amsterdam, from Tokyo. I had, guys, Colby Calais, Tower of Power, Pablo Cruz, on and on and on and on. Just great. And I got to play with all these guys. So that was wonderful. And then COVID hit. And my next music venture is I'm now part of a group that just bought an iconic recording studio called the Record Plant up in Sausalito.
I'm writing this stuff down because I want to remember this when I come up there.
Yeah, we're not open yet because of COVID, but
Yeah.
The Record Plant is where Huey Lewis recorded Sports and Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Carlos Santana, Prince. Everybody has recorded there. So we're trying to get that going again and some big plans. So that's my other passion. And then I love yoga, reading, cooking, eating, wine, life. Because earlier you were mentioning something about, how in, after 30 or 40 years in the small community, there is accountability. But I find that is the primary benefit of belonging to and really participating in an association like the AACFB.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little skeptical going into it because I wasn't quite sure what purpose it would serve, but I see it now. I've been on the board before of a couple of associations, leasing associations, and I've been active with the committees and things like that, but this is different. Being part of kind of the leadership group, I think that our goal is always transparency and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability means that you can't really, we've instituted firm ethical guidelines and complaint procedures, and it's not a fun thing to do, but I believe that it keeps the association on the straight and narrow. When I started in leasing in 1981, it was the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
There were no laws. There was no California finance license. There were no oversight administrative groups. It was basically, I used to call them used car salesmen with shoe polish. It was anybody could get into leasing, and they were selling products and selling, bill of goods. Just wasn't right. Slowly but surely things changed, but it wasn't because of the laws. It was because the people kept running into each other.
Right.
I mean, I see people like Chuck Brazier, Bob Teichman, Kid Mencken, Steve Geller, Russ Galloway, and Dwight Galloway, over and over and over again. How can you look somebody in the eye if you've been, practicing poor ethics? This association, Monica, has been incredible. She is the best. She got the Leasing News Award this year.
Yes.
Because she is that kind of a superstar. But there's a bunch of superstars on our board right now. And it is just so heartwarming to work with a group of people who really have the same vision and believe in transparency and accountability. And we're fair, we never try to take sides. We always, back to the justice concept. We give people a fair shake. We listen to the evidence. We do what we think is right. We weigh and balance, and it's really impressive.
So I'm going to kick over to the one thing that selfishly I wanted to take some of your time to ask, which is we're also busy and trying to be better. We're busy trying to be better. But this year, if there's one thing that brokers or lessors, each or both, need to watch out for, if we need to take time out of our day to watch out for something that's on the horizon that's really going to affect our business, is there something like that? And what is it? What should we watch out for?
It's a 5-letter word that should be a 4-letter word. It's fraud. The new F word.
Yeah.
Because the repercussions, the repercussions of fraud are so deep and numerous. First of all, anybody who's been defrauded, it can destroy your life. Yes. I mean, I don't know, you saw that thing lately where somebody made a mistake and at Citibank and send a $900 payment off, $900 million payment off, or a $500 million payment off when they weren't supposed to. And now the bank will survive that. But if it happens to a smaller business and suddenly there's some wire fraud and somebody taps into your account or dummies up or spoofs a prospective client, customer, and your money suddenly disappears, it can ruin your life. But beyond that, it makes people paranoid. Yes. It distorts your ability to discern good from bad, and it makes you paranoid, and that hurts people when you shouldn't be paranoid about them. Right. So it's pervasive. It covers and taints the entire industry. And right now, with technology, moving so quickly, and these fraudsters staying one step ahead, it's virtually impossible. And I get these inquiries all the time from clients. These guys set this thing up, blah 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 blah. We sent this wire, and it was to the wrong place. Can we get the money back? And it's very difficult. Yeah. So fraud. I believe I just wrote an article about fraud, or I'm doing a presentation on it at one of the upcoming conferences. Mm-hmm. But all we can do to protect ourselves from fraud, whether it's computer software, anti-spam stuff, cyber attacks are the worst. And anytime you get nailed by somebody who's doctored up a website, government documents, you can get burned pretty badly. So. And that's something the association can't really do much about, because these are people that are outside of all I can do is education, teach people how to, recognize the signs of too good to be true. Things that you don't know can really hurt you. The brokers are the educators. The brokers are the ones that bring you to the table with enough knowledge to negotiate your own deal wisely. If you don't know what to ask, then you'll never find out. And if you just hear and you go to the money and the money presents you the deal, you just might not be looking at the right things. So, broker's allegiance is to both the funding source and the customer, which puts, the broker in a very critical intermediary position of being almost a mediator between the two, and making sure that the deal gets done properly, so that neither side is going to come back and attack the broker. And that's a special position. That's not just selling. That's protecting your customer with the hopes that you get the best deal for him or her, and that they'll come back to you again, and that the lessor or the funder won't. Or that they will come back to you for more transactions, but not come at you because you did something wrong. Right. It's a really critical position. In some ways, I think it might be harder than being just a straight up lessor or funder, because there's no one there in the middle. We're the brokers are kind of the teachers. Yeah. Yep. And we've got some really good ones. We've got some very good minds in our association. So
We do, and the association blog, you go online and you can get on there and ask questions, and there's some people who are always responding to that with all of the experience that they have. And you get a couple of different answers, and if you don't know who to ask, at least you know it can get thrown out there on that AACFB board and get answered. And I've used that a couple of times, and I've answered it a couple of times too.
Yeah, and there's almost always an answer out there.
Yeah, absolutely. At least you'll get some feedback. You know, you can always get the answer and then consider for yourself if that's something that's going to be useful to you. But if there's no one that you can call, because there are people who get into the industry that don't necessarily have someone who's taken them under their wing, and they just don't know what to do. And we want to take care of those people because what they do affects the entire industry. You know, it's that whole thing again. It's like, well, I'm busy. Why would I want to reach out and help this person who's new when I've got all this to do? Well, because if we don't and they do something silly, then it could turn into more legislation or more regulation, because someone, like you said, is now looking for the person with the size 13 shoes. You know, this one person did this wrong over here.
Right.
Now everybody's going to be wrong.
Right. No, and so the second thing, you know, you asked me about what's, you know, what should people be aware of? And I said fraud, but there's going to be more laws and more legislation. Yeah. California is, you know, #1 in terms of watching everything you do. New York and New Jersey are right behind. Illinois is talking about it now. I think that within 10 years, you're going to have licensing and disclosure obligations in every state. And so you're going to need to comply. And now that's not an expensive proposition. You just do it a little bit at a time and you just stay on top of things. You got to just do things right, because, you know, the other enemy of complacency is Big Brother, who's keeping an eye on you if you're not keeping an eye on yourself. Yeah. So, you know, and you want to be careful about that too. And so, you know, you just got to stay honest, stay ethical, join the association.
Yeah, there you go. Join the association. Yeah, and use the resources that the association provides, which you're one of them, and we're so lucky to have you. And I know I'm grateful. I learned a lot just reading about you, your experience, and what you do for the association. So let me thank you on behalf of all of us. I'm not on the board, but I know that they are all very thankful for you. Well, and just so glad to have you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.